Welcome everybody. I am Joel. I'm in Auroville. I'm part of Auroville Media Interface. Today, the topic of the webinar will be the town development in Auroville and the upcoming project. Very fascinating and important topic to be addressed as the new impulse for the development of the city has been given something like a few months ago. Before starting the webinar, I would like to take a moment of silence to call the Mother and Sri Aurobindo's presence to guide us during this webinar. Thank you. Before starting the webinar in itself, the broader movement which is happening in Auroville today is also to invite people, well-wishers of Auroville, to come and participate in the development of Auroville. There are many facets to it. We have prepared a little video that Vladimir is going to show just now, which is specific to invite volunteers to join Auroville through our unit called SAVI. So before starting the webinar, we'll show this little 5 minutes video, if Vladimir, if you are okay to launch it, and I will see you on the other side.
In Auroville, a quest for giving high value to work is the way to put consciousness and beauty into matter.
I'm Sakshi. I was a SAVI volunteer at Upasana for 3 months, and I really liked working here, and now I'm working here as an employee. But SAVI really gives you an opportunity to explore different sides of your interest.
Hi, I'm Shivakumar from SAVI. SAVI is a Tamil name for key. We trying to be a key for Auroville.
Auroville is an international city created in the south of India by Mira Alfasa, also known as the Mother. The aim of the city is spiritual and is based on the teachings and the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo. The Mother and Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga is an invitation to practice spirituality in daily life, and in the case of Auroville, in building a new city. In 1968, the Mother inaugurated Auroville by reading in French its charter. The first line of it reads as follows in Mother's voice.
Auroville n'appartient à personne en particulier. Auroville appartient à toute l'humanité dans son ensemble. Mais pour séjourner à Auroville, il faut être le serviteur volontaire de la conscience divine.
We receive different group of volunteers in our orchard who come from India and from outside. And when people come from outside, SAVI helps a lot to channelize them through and get in our orchard.
At SAVI, we believe in educational dimension of work, as long as adequate conditions are set up to facilitate learning experience for the learner, that is volunteers, and the mentor. Uniting the vision which was very highly valued by the founder and the practicalities of living a life here. And in a way, there is a developing of oneness with all aspects of this life is happening through work. That's where we call this as Karma Yoga and volunteering in Auroville.
Auroville is an international city, so I'm super grateful to SAVI.
We are very happy that Savi sent us some volunteer, and we are looking for more volunteers.
A volunteer in Auroville can be from 18 years to 80. We don't have an upper limit, but we have a minimum of 18 years of old to be a volunteer in Auroville.
Welcome to I work on the business solutions team, and we're working on bringing digital solutions to various Auroville units, both commercial and service oriented.
Hey, welcome to the Ganesh Bakery.
At Auroville, we have the facility to welcome volunteers from across the globe, any part of the world.
Of course, I became part of Savi, and it helped me just to do the process and get into the space of Auroville. And I work at Matra Mandir.
A volunteer in general has to commit for a minimum of 25 hours per week, minimum of 2 months for Indians and minimum of 9 months for a foreign volunteer.
Savi was a big help. They are a helping hand to make it possible to enter India for a long term.
At Yuva, we are all about higher order thinking and bringing that kind of world skill to the current youth.
Yeah.
So it would be awesome if more people can join us through Savi, and not only do we help them build skill, they also in turn get to serve the community.
And we at Savi help the entry visa candidates.
As a Savi volunteer, it provides a very large platform and to explore Auroville.
Auroville unit supports them either in terms of accommodation or in terms of taking care of their food and logistics. So a volunteer has to check these facilities, check the possibilities before he or she commits to the work.
Savi helped me find my workplace, which is Deepam Special Needs School, and they helped me with my visa to get here and with my work once I arrived. And with Deepam, I'm an occupational therapist. I work with special needs kids, and I've been bringing them to Oral Orchard Farm to volunteer with me here on the farm 4 mornings a week. So here you can see them working behind me. Here they're learning different skills, they're learning vocational training.
Person who doesn't know anything about Auroville, he or she is going to check anyway the website auroville.org, and we have a very specific website for Savi, which is auroville-learning.net, which gives the complete information of all the process, all the registration things, and all the requirements that they need to plan to.
Thank you very much to the Savi, to whole Auroville people. They're helping for sending that our volunteer to here and doing that.
Morning, welcome to Upasana. We would like to have more students, and now that post-COVID that chapter has opened up. So welcome, see you here.
Thank you, Savi.
Okay, oh, I have to put my camera on. So I guess let's jump right away in the topic. I will ask our 5 panelists, Sindhuja, Toby, Anupama, Govind, and Jaya, to make a little presentation of 10-15 minutes maximum, because we have already more than 100 participants who have registered for the webinar, and I guess they will have many questions that we will take up at the end. So Sindhuja, if you want to start, it's to you.
Hello everyone, I'm Sindhuja. I'm part of the new Auroville Town Development Council, along with Toby here, and I think there are a few others in the room with Joel. It's Jaya and Govind, and Anupama, hi. She is joining us from Berlin. She is the head of urban design technical team in Auroville Town Development Council. So my introduction will be very short. I think I will try to share screen. Can everyone see this? Yeah. So basically, we'd like to give you the presentation for which we made just now in July 2022. Basically, this defines the program of our works for the coming years, for the coming 3 to 5 years, to be very specific. And how to achieve this goal, the method to achieve this goal, the timeline and the details are being worked out as we go. Basically, in general, our program of work is very vast because we want to invite 12,000 new residents into Auroville by 2025. With the coming of the new governing board, this target seems very achievable. But at the same time, the Auroville Town Development Council needs to step up its game, and it needs to do the plans, and it needs to make sure that Auroville is moving in the direction that we want it to move. So a few of the priorities which we have identified over the coming years, one of them is definitely to make the city center, at least of Auroville, a motorized traffic-free area by February 28, 2023. Before that, we already have some goals. We would like to clear all the right-of-ways as defined in the master plan by the end of this year. We're also working in a very speedy way to develop the service nodes to create the details, and CPWD will be engaged to execute these service nodes as well, to clear the roads and to create parking nodes for switchover from petrol vehicles to e-vehicles. And along with this, of course, there is a whole infrastructure plan which is being drawn up right now. I think when I pass the mic to Govind, he can speak a bit more specifically on what are the infrastructure plans. And housing, we would like to provide, at least in plan, in the next 3 to 5 years, housing for the 12,000 new people that are coming. And immediately for this year, we are starting to look at developing 1,000-bed permanent housing within Auroville, and another 1,000-bed sort of temporary housing for people who would like to come into Auroville and would like to explore and volunteer and stay maybe for some time, a few years or a few months. And another very urgent thing to look into for us is the conservation of what is left of the green belt, because we know we have lost a lot of the green belt, not only to settlements, but also to wrong permissions given by the previous ATDCs for things like residential communities, hospitality projects, and so on in the green belt. And if you look at this map that is projected here, that's all the farms we have in the green belt, and some of them actually spill over into the city, all the purple lines that you see. So the green belt is supposed to be much bigger than that. And we're looking at consolidating a lot of land within the green belt, at least what is available to us and is reachable for us today, to work with FAMC and to create a plan where larger areas can be consolidated for large-scale farming that can produce food for Auroville. There's also a new FAMC in place by office order, put in place in June, and we're working together with them on this. And also, we've been talking about this for years in Auroville. At least I've heard this being talked about, that we have non-interconnected communities or settlements or gated community models with fences everywhere. Even though we have acquired the vast majority of land within the Auroville city, we still have intra-community fences that have no connect, that doesn't allow connection between communities. So actually the draft detailed development plan, which was done by Luis Feducci a few years ago, already talks about how to bridge this gap. And the work done by the previous Auroville Town Development Council in the past 2 to 3 years show us that a lot of thought has been put into developing these negative spaces between the built masses already existing. So this is one program of work we have taken up urgently, at least in sector 1 and 2. So for those of you who can't orient, sector 1 and 2, it is between Grace community and Solar Kitchen on the outer side of the crown. That is residential zone sector 1 and 2. And also we would like to put our focus and energy into developing a detailed development plan for the industrial zone, at least to detail out pockets of it so permissions can be granted immediately. There are pending applications since 4 or 5 years, which haven't even been replied to. So this work is very, very urgent, and we have taken it up. I would like to take the opportunity to say also that we are strengthening the team by hiring planners, urban designers, architects, interns. We have put together a whole budget and program how to make all this happen, because we can't just talk about it anymore. We have to do it. And then, of course, as we all know, the Crown project has started, and it's happening on the ground. It's being executed by CPWD. We just issued a circular today to the community, informing them that the work is started, and we would appreciate cooperation. So we plan to execute the whole 16.7 meter stretch in 5 different areas, or at least 3 different areas, to showcase a bit what the Crown urban space could look like. But more importantly, we would like to move by the end of this year to making the Crown a motorized vehicle free corridor. And I think that is what will bring the essence of the Crown. So the work has just started. Let us see how fast we can continue. And then there is the Line of Goodwill project, which has been in the pipeline since many years already and has been developed by a project team. Now it's a project cell under the ATDC directly. Anupama Kundoo herself has been working on this for several years, and Jaya is part of the project team. So I will let them elaborate when I pass it on. And when I talked about the economy, also it's the development of the service node is not just for mobility transfer, it's also for economic development. This has all been detailed out over the last years. Only execution plans had not been done. So now we have taken up this work of making execution plans, taking into account lands we own, lands in conflict and whatnot, and existing buildings, and actually create a zoning that doesn't allow for sprawl development, because this is one of the problems in Auroville today. There is no FSI, there is no ground coverage defined. So everything has become a bit of a sprawl. So now we are taking clusters and we are defining the building parameters so people can plug into larger projects and don't get parcels of land to put their own thing in. This is residential zone sector 1 and 2, what we talked about before. So can people see my mouse? Can people see my cursor? Yeah. So
yes.
This is the Crown, and this is the outer side of the Crown. So Grace is here, Surrender is here. So the sector 1 and 2 stretches all the way to Sola Kitchen right here. And here at the end of sector 2 is one line of force. So this is the area that we will be focusing now to open up public or publicly funded projects for housing for Auroville residents, along with Line of Goodwill. And these are some of the applications, public projects at least, which are in the pipeline, which we are looking at right now. They're in different stages of development. And it is just to show you that this is the work that's being done, but there is a lot more. And actually, as we go through the files, as we go through the drives and the emails, we see that there is a lot to kind of dig up and revive and bring life to, because yeah, a lot of stalling has happened for projects and private initiatives. So unblocking, I think, is the motto of the new team, and I think we are very excited to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sindhuja. Before handing the microphone to, or the camera, I don't know how to say, to Toby, I would like to inform the audience that you can put your question in the Q&A box, and we will read them at the end of the webinar. And also to mention that behind the scene, we are collaborating with La Grace Integral Life Center in the USA, thanks to the help of Vladimir and Rade, which are helping us also with the technical aspect. So Toby, it's your turn.
Thank you, Joel. My name is Toby. I work in the ATDC for 1.5 years now, and recently we got a new office order for the next 4 years. And you heard already from Sindhuja that we are quite ambitious in going forward in the development of Auroville. I will concentrate what I say mainly on infrastructure. You heard from Sindhuja where our priorities are. You saw a huge list of projects, and she said there is much more, and one of the much mores is infrastructure. And I want to take 2 out, and that's electricity and water. Electricity, we started a few years ago with making an electricity master plan. And actually the whole idea of that master plan was that we foresaw that a lot of solar energy would be generated in Auroville, and that somehow that should be shared with in-hill or Auroville. So we decided to have high tension quite deep into the communities and make their transformers, and wherever is solar power, that will go directly into those transformers, and that will be distributed to the rest of Auroville. That is quite unique. You don't see that so often. And the last few years, we have invested quite a lot of money, not only for bringing high tension into Auroville, but also into the development of solar panels. And this works actually quite well. What we see in the results is that the amount of power cuts where we are so happy with that has gone down. The underground cables are much better because we have a lot of trees, and every time when there was a storm, then those high tension lines were touched. Now that is not happening anymore, so we can secure the electricity quite well where we have done this project. It is quite a lot of money for 3,000 people, but that is the beauty of planning. You see that we have quite initiative in housing. We have initiatives in the economy that will start accelerating in the next few years. And at least on the electricity part, we are ready then. Water is a different topic. When I talk about water, it is not only water supply, but also wastewater and actually also surface water. So it is quite a story, but let's start with the water supply. Historically, the communities had their own borewell, had their own tank, and had a few connections. Now, that you can do when you have 5, 6, 10, 12 people in a community, but as soon as you come over the hundreds and in the near future, thousands of people, you need a developed professional system. And that is gradually being developed in the last few years. You see in the residential zone water service where they have renewed the pipes. And that's important. I mean, you don't see it as all underground, but the water losses in the PVC pipes are 30–40%. And with the new pipes what we use, it is almost zero. So we save a lot of water just by renewing pipes. Now we scaled up, more communities have been connected. Here and there we testing pressurized systems. So basically, step by step, the system is growing. It is far from sufficient for the city. So we have to do a bit of a race here, well, because if the residential sector really start moving and the service nodes start and the economic zone starts and a few more of those areas starts, then we have to do quite a lot of work in piping, in finding water resources. Now, it is known that the water resources in Auroville are depleting. Auroville on its plateau, and if you look at the aquifers under a plateau, Auroville takes about 1–2% of the total water what is in the aquifers. You see the agriculture around Auroville, what takes about 98%. So we are a bit, I'm not to say victim, but we are not, we don't fully, the depleting is not the thing what Auroville is how do you say that we are not guilty of this, but it is happening under our feet. So in the long run, we need other water supplies, and of course we are lucky that we have a lot of rain, but the storage of rain, treatment of rain, that is quite expensive and also doesn't match exactly with the projections what we have. So we are looking at the sea, which is just 5 kilometers away, and luckily we have the desalination as a project there already on paper and in going. So we hope that on a few years we can have desalinated water for the water supply. On the wastewater part, we are experimenting in the residential zone with a wastewater plant that actually goes quite well. The main point of the wastewater is that we collect the water and treat the water, and that goes back as gardening. And every liter what is used for water for gardening is not needed to get it out of the ground. If you see a few years back in the residential zone, there was 400 liters per person per day what was needed. That has gone back now to 300, 250, 200 here and there. So that is quite a success. And this we have to repeat in a few other areas in Auroville as well. On the surface water part, yeah, that's actually, we have a lot of rain. We don't have rivers. So everything on the plateau that has the tendency to go down to lower areas, a lot has been bundled and a lot is percolating, so that actually goes well. But at the moment, the focus for the rainwater is especially there where the areas are higher than the lake, that we try to collect the water and that it goes into the lake. It is not the intention in the lake that we use that a relatively expensive desalinated water for it, but that we use the rainwater for it. So this is the whole palette. In the water supply, it goes actually quite well, but we have to do steps. The wastewater, we have to multiply what has happened at the moment in the residential zone. And for the rainwater, the first line is, and that will be also part of the crown road, but I think that Govind can tell you, will be caught and get into the lake. Is this sufficient, or you want me to tell more, Joel?
No, no, good. Toby, we'll have more space for question and dialogue.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you said.
Thank you, Toby, for being short and concise. Anupama, you will speak about mobility.
I'll just continue some of the urban projects. Let me share my screen, including mobility, and I will avoid overlapping with what Sindhuja said. Just a moment. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So hello everyone. I'm happy to share with you some of the urban projects that Sindhuja spoke about, and I'll just show you the work in progress to get an overall idea, and we can talk about it in the chat time. Basically, what she said is that by realizing the crown, what will become suddenly possible is that it will allow us to make a very visible shift towards a non-car mobility, a pedestrian centric. So the city center, which was already prepared, this drawing is from 2002. But what I want to just share here is that, you know, that the crown itself is not the only mobility that we have. There, for Auroville, we are, you look at all these green parks, they allow us to have a very free kind of movement inside the city center, because it's only 1.2 kilometers. Okay, so around 300 meters or so into the lake, up to the lake edge is what we have to move. And so we will be able to, and we do not have to rely on only bicycle paths which are beside the public transport. There's going to be many other networks, and I'll just give you a glimpse of that. So we're trying to consolidate this city center as a priority with all its developments. So as you know, that the Crown Belt also connects the 4 zones of Auroville. So what the city center actually does is that it encloses in a spiraling manner parts of all of those, each of the 4 zones are inside the city center. So we have the possibility to build swatches of all those zones and have a very cohesive city center if we develop all elements of it. In the very first phase, if we only develop this much, we will achieve a population of 20,000. And that's what we're targeting as a first phase. So as you all know, residential zone 1 and 2, like Sindhuja mentioned, will give us a further population of 5,000 people. The city center has not so much residential, but it does have 5,000 too. So together that is 10,000, and the line of goodwill, which you see jutting out from the left-hand side. This will also give us 8,000 people. So together, there's a mistake on the slide which says 80. It's altogether 20,000 people, but the new infrastructure we will lay is only the part of the line of goodwill. So only 700-meter long of infrastructure in a line will suddenly allow us a population of 20,000 without scattering. So one of the areas we have worked out is how the spirit of the crown, which is envisioned as a very pedestrian, lively space, not interrupted by vehicular traffic, how to realize this. And so this has been one of the major areas of work in the last half a year, I would say. And the crown will allow us to go inward and outward. I mean, the facilities along in the crown buildings will allow us to serve both sides of the crown equally. And it has this, as explained, it has a very important role to enable the rest of the public transport, which will be in the radials and going outwards. So I'm going to skip this part. So we have been defining the quality of urban spaces, the spaces between the buildings that actually make a city livable and prioritize public life. So these are the type of parameters we have been defining. Without going technical, I just want to give you an idea that the crown, the public transport will we are making like 4 separate networks. There's a red network. Auroville will have a plan of 4 totally independent movement areas, which we are calling the red network, the yellow network, the green network, and the blue network. And these type of spaces will interact in some of these junctions in the crown. But basically the section of the crown will vary, not only according to which zone it cuts, but also because it is conceived as a non-monotonous and a fluid type of space, you know, which has the intimacy of some of the old settlements which we know in India already as pedestrian cities, but also we know it from a lot of pre-industrial examples across the world, where these became naturally shaded spaces that are comfortable for people to meet each other and to not get interrupted by the transportation that comes and cuts it. So Auroville was always conceived like that, but we are working out the actual urban fabric, and we have studied all these other cities as examples, and of course Roger Angers' own work. So we have looked at the materiality inspired by cities, again Indian cities like Fatehpur Sikri, cities like Bologna and Lisbon. And this is Lisbon. This is a very good example of how public transport exists, but the plazas and the in-between spaces between buildings are very, very central to the quality. So do not please think that the Crown Road has to accommodate all of those wishes. Alongside the road, there are other paved areas which have this rich quality of public interaction, which are very much part of the Crown development. So one stretch has been detailed out, which we are going to test in one-to-one. Sindhuja spoke about it. And we have also got sections which show why, even though since it is our other streets are going to be much more intimate, but the Crown Road also needs to accommodate, you know, emergency vehicles, fire brigades, ambulances and so on, material delivery. So we have to also see it as an infrastructure corridor. So coming back to the city center, I want to explain that the networks we are going to have. We have this red network where public transport will occur. And you can see that there is a semicircular thing at the bottom part. That is the the kindergarten and schools, and there's going to be a kind of a toy train, which was always kind of planned, that the children are dropped off there and then thereafter they go on their own. And so there are very, very interesting shuttles that are planned here that have the child scale and elsewhere the pedestrian scale. So you see the service, the red is, occasional service with roads with timings. The yellow's network is the hub of public spaces where all the facilities are. So they are going to be pedestrian spaces that are a little bit noisy. They are going to go through lively areas, very much the street quality that many people in Auroville have been aspiring and fearing that the Crown won't have. They indeed happen in the inner circle of the Crown. Then there is a green network, which is where for those people who are going to take bicycles or skateboards or whatever and not even need to see any vehicle, that this is all, each and every building can be accessed through this route as well. And the blue network, which is a very, very meditative recreational route, which ends in the lake promenade. So this type of plan has been thoroughly worked out, and also the quality of the various street sections have been defined since long ago. And all of you who have been using this building will understand that some of these principles have been tested through these covered walkways, etc., so that even in monsoon and harsh rains, or sun, we can still feel like walking. So I will not talk about the line of goodwill, which is a very important project which Jaya will describe, but I want to just explain that the same red, yellow, green and blue networks will also go through such a tower building. This pedestrian spaces are fully integrated, the bicycle paths are integrated and so on. And all these, the visitors who will enter, they will walk through these shaded spaces and go straight into the Matri Mandir, and yet they won't disturb the daily life, and there are bicycle paths that cut. The mobility is very holistic and is actually something I would like to take a special session on to understand, so that it will reassure people that this Crown Road is not something as the only way to move in Auroville. So there are all these intricate networks in each and every zone. Also, it's important to understand that there is a concept of unified parks and separate gardens that are smaller patches of designed urban recreational spaces that interface between the building and the common park. So between this and between that, you have two forms of green networks. Now, Sindhuja already explained that 1,000 people, 1,000 beds are going to be provided in the first phase. I have read a lot of different views and question marks about whether Auroville is going to follow the original promised square meter per person in the residential spaces. And I've heard I've heard some questions being put to the fact that the current planning team are not following the 30 square meter per person guideline. This is not true. It is also not purely 30 square meters, it is even less for a single. So there are, in the original plan by Roger Anger, there were cells and apartments that were planned, clusters of different types of sharing. We are absolutely following that. The per person carpet area is 22 square meter for singles, but there are shared spaces, common kitchens, and cluster level common spaces, neighborhood level common spaces. So without going into details, yes, all of that is being followed. 2 locations are being proposed for the first batch of 1,000 houses. And a lot of people are also talking in internet about why are housing being planned in the administrative zone. It was always part of the original plan, so that office areas and work areas are not isolated. So just alongside the administrative belt, a housing belt was always part of the plan. And exactly in this plan, Sunship and other Citadine, etc., Mitra have been planned in a very planned manner. And you will see that was always planned before the housing began. So there are all of these calculations, which I don't want to bore you with, but that they exist. And that's one part of the work. And the next part is that how to interface in the mobility from the outer, when people enter Auroville, how are the interfaces going to happen, and where the conventional transport has to be left behind, and the new and the Auroville transport and the non-polluting has to be plugged in. So we have been working also, Sindhuja showed one part, but we are detailing out the service nodes and also deviating, we have to look after the villages who are getting disturbed right now by our mobility. We are also working on that. And finally, I want to show you this project that in the administrative belt, when we had done an urban design, while Roger Anger was very much there guiding us, we had started the town hall complex as you now know it, but on the Perumbuk land next to it, the main town hall was planned, and this current town hall was planned for being the urban planning structure, just like the archive. There are buildings planned for the different aspects of administration. So already in 2007, a detailed project had been made for the final town hall, which I'm just going to give you a glimpse of this project, which we would like to realize, because I have seen also on the internet, some people are saying we should have a place for residence assembly meetings, etc. The main town hall already has planned for all of those things, okay, and this exists, and this is a project we want to also build. So in this case, what we have is it's a sketch which Roger had done, which I have developed into a detailed project which he had approved. So it's a reverse pyramid, and on the top are the residents, and then on the roof they can meet, and then comes the formal meeting spaces, and it tapers down. Just after Matri Mandir, this should be along with Siru, one of the very important buildings that give a clarity about the project of Auroville. And in the bottom area, I had done these kind of pillars so that you have the quality of the banyan tree and the many pillars, and where also informal meetings, something like we have in Sauchu, but of a bigger scale, like a stepped well. It's got this kind of very attractive spaces underneath it, where all these meetings will take place. And we had also imagined that this will be designed, with solar passive principles, and with some of the materials that are sourced from the lake earth could hopefully be used, and maybe we should start making building materials to build the rest of the city with some of the earth. These type of ideas had been explored. And here is the model of the current complex of the town hall alongside the main town hall, which is, you can get the sense of the importance of the town hall. On the sides of that pyramid are many more office spaces for many of the uses. People who are like working committee office, etc., will have to all move there, land service, etc. And that the adjoining one will be the planning office only. And I think with this, I would like to give it over to Jaya to explain the line of goodwill. Jaya, would you like to project your own slides, or should I push the slides for you?
Yes, Anupama, you want to say something else?
No, I just want to know if I should share her slides or she will share her own.
No, we will do it from our end.
Yes. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So, I start.
Sharing your screen. And here we go, and then you can click here. Here you will have the second slide. Click on the corner.
Yeah. So my name is Jaya, and I'm going to talk a bit about the line of goodwill, which is a project close to my heart. I work with the ATDC. I'm new there and finding my way, but we have some very good people, so it's great work. Very, very happy to see so much happening in Auroville on this level with the development. I have some slides from Anupama here that she has shared with me to use, but I had put one in. Can you? Okay. So I actually wanted to start with the slide of the galaxy. And how do I do this? Yes. So the line of goodwill is what you see here. This is the longest line of force, the largest one. So I wanted to show it in its context, and then we can go to the next slide.
You can just say next slide.
Yes. So here is a newer model. So what you see here in white and red, the long line, that is the line of goodwill. It starts by the Matrimandir West Gate on the lake, outside of the lake, with the Matrimandir Access building. So whoever is going to go to the Matrimandir will travel through the line of goodwill and go through this access building, which will be there, and there will be the bridge across the lake, which will be the one access. There might be another access on the opposite side for materials, work, etc. But this is where we all will be crossing over, guests, Aurovillians, etc., to go to the Oval Island. In the line of goodwill, so here, yes. The whole part, what you see here, now you have to make it a little bit smaller. No.
Why it isn't?
No,
We have lost it.
Just keep them the size. Okay. So basically, it stretches then from here and all the way down to here is the habitat. There will be about 8,000 people living here. This is very inspiring because what we are looking at is how to create density in a way, and it's a high rise, it's a hillscape actually. So what you see on the outside, what is red here on these sides, that goes from ground level and up to 4 stories. And then that can be all done, you see it's red, can be done in red earth, etc. And then you have the high rise in the middle, the white, and that goes up to 18 stories at the end down here in the gateway. And for me, I have been who lives in Auroville. When I travel to Chennai, we have seen over the last 10, 15 years how the high rise are coming up. 18 stories is not very high in this context, actually, so it sounds much to us. And the high rise are built in small clusters, fenced in. I think we can assume that the children who live in these high rise go to private schools. In India, the government schools have big grounds. Private schools, unless they are the very, very expensive ones, will not have that. So these children move between environments which are indoors and confined, not much access to nature, etc. When we build density, it means that we can leave space for nature. Definitely, practically all the countries in the world have to build density because we need to have nature actually have the space. The human beings are the most adaptable species, and we are also the most invasive species. We talk about small fishes and all these things. We are the most invasive species. When you read in the newspapers here, it's about elephants which are killed, etc., etc. We are invading on the wild spaces big time. We need to spread out, and we keep spreading out and taking. And unless we build a density which is actually building us in a good way, this is not going to work. We are actually really destroying the earth, the environment, the other beings, and we keep doing it. We don't stop just because we see that it's happening. We talk about the environment, we talk about the animals, we do animal organizations, but we actually don't change our lifestyle. And it is our lifestyle that is creating these difficulties. As human beings, we have the capacity to actually shift. An animal is totally dependent on the size of its environment. It has, what do you call it in English? I forget it. In Swedish, you say revir. Each animal, or most animals, have a certain area that they need, certain amount of space, and it can be very big for big animals like elephants, no? Human beings don't have that situation. we actually can live in very small spaces. We can live much more confined, and we can make it beautiful, and we can make it nice, and we can thrive, because we can always adapt our environment and ourselves. So in the line of goodwill, this is a very, very important factor. Can we create this kind of density? Can we create it in such a way that everybody has a private space? There is semi-private spaces, there's public spaces, there are collective spaces. Can we create villages within a high-rise? Can something like that be attempted? Now a high-rise goes up, you have the doors, you don't practically know people in the house you live in. There can be 400 people in the house, maybe you know 2 families or 3. I think this is a very common experience. Can we create villages? Can we create an environment which actually is movable, cyclable, interactive between people, where collective facilities are used, where we have a zero, you call it, that actually the water is moving in such a way that we are kind of recycling now. So I lose the words a bit, and that it is on the energy levels, on all the levels. Can we have the highest cutting edge what exists? And when we looked at this, when we started this project 6 years ago, we were saying we wanted to be cutting edge at all levels. The greenery, the energy, the water use, the function and space for people. When we build it, can we use the materials? Can we treat the labor? Can we try to do something which actually has integrity and integrality the whole way? This is our aim, which is here with the line of goodwill. There are a few pictures here. Here you can see, this is of course not how it's going to look, but it shows the different levels, how you move. You have the red earth, and then you have prefab in the center. You can just go through these ones. Yes, here again we see, I think you go down, these are the ones, Anupama. So in the white high rise, 35% is void, is open space. On the red, with the earth, there you have 50%, which is open spaces. I don't have the numbers in my head, but the collective spaces, etc., it is very, very different than how it is built normally. So there will be kindergartens, there will be gyms, there will be laundry places, there will be restaurants. All this will be happening. This will be like a city in the city. I think we can go down. Yes. So you see here that this is the habitat. At the end, you have the matrimonial access. Through the building, you can move through the building on many levels. I think somewhere on either the first or second floor, you will have electrical transport which goes through for the people who come for the matrimonial access. There will also be 2 or 3 viewing points on the building, so that the visitors can access, because the viewing point we have now will be gone now. And this movement by the visitors will be in such a way that it doesn't disturb the living inside the building. This is a way of moving here. Here you have the Oro dams. So this is Perambok land and it's water catchment, so we cannot build on that, and we will not. So we have actually the last part, which we call the gateway. It's a separate building here, and that has a wide area around it with plaza, etc. And this is our, so we call it visitor center. This is where visitors come when they come to Auroville. We call it the gateway. We had pre-COVID around 1 million day visitors per year. The present visitor center is very small, very much focused on the sales and the boutiques. This is not a mall. Some people, many people actually in Auroville, why are you building a mall? This is terrible. This is not a mall at all. I don't think anybody who works with this project are mall fans, no. What you have here is that you really have an access in this building to everything that happens in Auroville. When you come here, it's interactive, there is culture, there is the waste handling. There is all this. You can come with your school class, you can access, you can look, you can go on exhibitions. This is a very interactive place where you can spend days exploring, where you can meet people, where you have the food, the restaurants. There will also be some hotel facilities, which will be for the people who come to go to Matrimandi and need to stay overnight. So this is a very, very important project. I always feel that this is our giving back to India, all what we have been receiving. We will show how you can actually build high rise and density in a way which is beneficial and where people will thrive. So I think this is what I have to say about this.
Super.
Yeah, hope it was not too long.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaya. Now, give the microphone to Govind. Let me just turn the camera.
Hello everyone. I'm Govind. I have taken charge to see that the projects which are being designed are implemented in place. So I'm mainly looking at the implementation part. Most of the infrastructure parts are handled by design team. Toby has covered most of them except the two: integrated waste management and fecal sludge management. Fecal sludge management part is already taken care by CPWD team. They are designing the system. Location, we are in the situation to decide the location where it will be implemented. And for municipal solid waste management, we are in touch with the surrounding panchayat people, and we are also trying to look at the total volume of waste that could be generated and collected and transported to a specific location where it could be treated and it could give some valuable resource. It could be either in the form of refuse derived fuel, RDF. If the treatment plant is properly set up, that can go to the cement industry. So we are looking at a much larger scale to collect the municipal solid waste from Auroville as well as the neighboring panchayat areas. Now during the execution, we will observe that there are certain areas which will be collecting the storm water. So how the storm water will have to be channelized and how it will be having the interconnected water bodies, and then how the water channel will be also allowed to go to a water body which will be allowed to pump back finally to the either lake or to a specific water bodies. So these are the main 2-3 areas which we will be focusing, including the implementation part. I think that's enough for me. If there is any question, we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you, Govind. I think we can now pick up some question. Let me open the Q&A. So we have a few. First question who came: how to protect plantings, gardens, and trees from free-ranging cows and goats without fences? At the beginning of the talk, Sindhuja was saying that one of the ideas would be to remove unnecessary fences. So maybe that answer can be completed.
I actually accidentally answered privately to the person who asked the question, so I can read out the answer. I have replied, by having city level fences and removing intra-community fences, we can solve this problem. Because we own 85% of the land within the city. So we are able to remove about 90% of the fences and still be cow free. We can have one large fence around the Auroville city.
Okay.
Anyone wants to add to the answer, please feel free.
Okay, so I'll go for the next question. Does Crown go around existing water catchment and large mature trees? Who would like to answer?
Shall I answer?
Yeah.
So as we know, there is a NGT case in progress. So we are not able to answer this question in detail because the matter is still sub judice. There is a joint committee who is doing their work and is going to give their report. But I think everybody who's attending this talk at least knows very well that there is a design, a plan, which is a perfect circle. And whatever comes in the way will be mitigated. If it's water catchment, there will be bridges. If it's trees that can be transplanted, they will be transplanted. If they're cut, they will be compensated for. So this is the answer from ATDC. Now, of course, we're in the middle of the NGT verdict being played out. So I would not like to go further on this question.
Govind, you want to add something?
Perfectly fine.
Okay, NGT stands for National Green Tribunal, for those who don't know. Okay, next question. What about the acoustic problems of flat, close together, noise from open windows and doors? I guess this related to the line of goodwill.
I can answer this. So this is again like the cow fence question. This question has been there from day one, you know. So I just want to say that acoustics has to be done. Just like when you build urban, you have to address all those complexities, and it won't be the same as the do-it-yourself houses, which will be limited in its technology to what people are used to building when they live very far apart from the early days. Now, it is also important to know that part of the problem is the acoustic and part is the fact that people got used to not seeing anyone else and living far apart, you know. And there is part of it which is a lifestyle shift also. And I used to ask this question when I used to bring them to Roger at that time. So he also explained to me that in a tropical climate, there will be some areas for certain people where we'll have to air condition if you want to insulate, because you cannot have humid spaces, which because of the humidity, you have to do cross ventilation, and because of cross ventilation, sound will carry. So he's explained to me that people also have to learn not to make noise and be inconvenient to the others. And Golconda is a very good example. They have cross ventilation and they have guidelines and they respect that they live next to others. So, and actually it is a very peaceful way, and simple things like I was asked about TV, what do you do with the TV? You can wear a headphone, you know, so there are many little things you have to do. The person has to adjust. There are things that are to do with adjusting to the fact that you have civic sense and you live urban. And the third part of the things are technical, which are very much solvable. And especially in a country like India, we cannot afford to have a luxury version of sustainability, because what is not sustainable is individualism. That is the main thing which is not sustainable. And in India, we have to be a replicable model, we have to achieve a certain density. So if it means investing in acoustics, we have to do so. But to invest, if you are going to remain as individualistic, the solution will be very expensive. But if we go halfway, it could be affordable. And one more point, that the densification, if because of the non-acoustic technical solution, if we sprawl, anyway, it will mean you have to have cars and pollution. So the fact that we want this mobility, we have to be compact. And to be compact, if we don't have the solution today, we have to find it.
Thank you. Anyone wants to add anything? Okay, then I'll go to the next question. How about attention to accessibility? You want to say something? Sure.
I have to answer this one.
Yeah.
How about attention to accessibility for wheelchair, baby carriage, physically challenged people? We actually have rules and regulations about that. India has that. And we are very much, we also in all the projects that we are now working with, we are reinforcing this has to be done. There has to be accessibility. Toilets has to be accessible. Second floors have to be accessible. It's really something that we are looking at. I'm very happy about that. So there's an attention on it, which we have not had before, I think.
I would like to add a sentence. Those guidelines that Jaya is talking about on the Indian Building Code were already in place before we built the town hall. And if you notice, there is a ramp to take people to the cafeteria. I used to myself use that with the pram to take my children up there. So, but in the meantime, the code has been a little shifted. Govind will know more. It has to be even more gentle, the ramp in the future. But we will have to have a combination of lift and elevators, etc., which we didn't manage to finance for the town hall. So not all levels are accessible, but the future buildings, we will have to do that.
Earlier, there was a requirement to make a provision of lift after 5th floor. But now Tamil Nadu has come up with a provision that G+2 above lift is required. So we will take care of that also while designing. Thank you.
Thank you. So, practical question, what is the highest floor? Do we have lift? How much will a flat for a family cost on the top floor? When do the bookings start? Do all the Aurovillians have a priority in allotments, especially senior ones? Who would like to give it a try?
I can answer this. I think I don't want to answer the lift question because, you know, like Govind has already mentioned, we have building codes which will ensure that all of this is manageable. Regarding, you know, the demand and supply, actually for the whole 50,000 population, many more such structures are planned. And in order to enable that the rest of Auroville can live in the G+2 and low rise, that is why there are only 10 lines, only 10 of compact infrastructure, so that those who want to live in a more high-end manner, very close to each other with all the facilities like Jaya described with gyms and everything, they can go there. And those who need to, in whichever few years and phase of their life, need to spread out, they can also spread out. So it's a combination. And the only part I'm not going to answer now. So I mean that the rest of the lines will also follow. So there will not be a shortage. But regarding the question of the booking and the price, I leave it to the ATDC people to answer.
I think those are not questions normally that we are solving. We are looking into the planning parameters. We're looking into doing technical detailed plans, allotments, and the question of bookings and so on will be done in conjunction with FAMC and the Auroville Foundation. So also the same person has continued to ask the question. There was another line of force plan but was never realized. Will the history repeat here? So like I was saying at the beginning of my introduction, we are very much for actually walking the talk. And I think that is the mandate given to the new ATDC. There's no just talking possible any longer. There's quite a bit at stake. There's quite a bit of funding coming Auroville way from the government of India and from well-wishers. So we don't have the luxury to sit on this money and this land, 3,300 acres, and not do anything. So I think the answer is history will not repeat itself. We are going for it.
I think another aspect is that the intention, these 6 years we have been working with the line of goodwill, is really that we will get away from the ownership of flats, from the buying of flats and houses, etc., and find some way that people do contribute and that we can build together, but get away from this part of that. You buy a flat, and if it's higher up, if it's this or that, you pay more, you get bigger. Something will be shifting with all this. I think over a period now, we will be looking much more at fostering the collectivity, because we have been fostering the individualism so strongly and taken up so much place for that. Now we need to make a little turn for some time. So, and very much get out of the buying and selling of housing is not at all in alignment with what Mara has said for Auroville. So it will all have to shift. So I think that question will be, answer is, we cannot say it will be like this, like that, but the movement which is there is really to shift that situation.
Okay. So another question, since we mentioned the number of residents increasing, will be the 12,000 future resident Aurovillian also? Who wants to reply?
There will be Auroville residents. I think they will be as Aurovillian as you and me. I hope they are more Aurovillian than you and me, whoever asked the question, but they will surely be Auroville residents. And hopefully Auroville invites more and more disciplined workers into Auroville who come here with a commitment to the ideals, to the vision of Mother Sri Aurobindo, and to the building of the city. And so yes, definitely they will have to be residents, they will have to live here, they will have to contribute for their work time.
Anyone else? I continue? Okay. Please explain the role of Anupama, and is she aware of the Dream Weaver's work? What happened to the request of Balakrishna Doshi being involved with town planning?
Someone else should answer this.
I can answer at least the first part. I think I explained the role of Anupama upfront. We have a technical team of urban design, and she is the head of urban design. She is right now contributing offshore. We also have another offshore team that works directly with Anupama and liaisons with our office here in Auroville. And if she's aware of Dreamweaver's work, I will let Anupama take that one after I answer about Vastushilp. So actually, Vastushilp Consultants was asked to be involved in the detailed development plan at one point. So this was several months ago already, and negotiations and talks and actually studying what exists and what doesn't exist have been underway. But what has happened also in the last 6 months, like Anu was explaining, we have done a lot of work in-house in collating existing studies and ideas and bringing one guideline document as the base for building detailed infrastructure plans on. So what remains to be done at this point is what Govind explained. There are detailed infrastructure plans, city water balance plan, wastewater plan for the whole city, fecal sludge management plan. These are the kind of things that are remaining to be done. For the immediate development we're looking at, which is residential zone sector 1 and 2, city center, crown, inner belt, and line of goodwill. This is for the next 3 to 5 years. In these areas, a lot of work has already been done. So while Vastushilp will continue to serve ATDC, or at least we will continue our collaboration definitely in terms of consultancy for design and expertise. The detailed planning and detailed development plan work will be taken up in-house by ATDC, and CPWD will help us with the technical aspect of it, bringing in engineers, infrastructure experts, and whatnot where we are deficient.
I can answer the part about the dream, whether I have been aware of the Dreamweaver's work. I have, the answer is yes. I have attended all those sessions online. I have also presented an opening lecture about the urban design guidelines in one of those sessions as part of the presenters.
Anyone? No? Good. So actually, I have a few questions. So those projects, big project, Crown, new town hall, line of goodwill, will require a huge amount of money. Can you tell us a bit more what will be the different source of financing? And then to give us maybe an idea of the time frame, you say for between 3 and 5 years, how long is going to take for the crown to appear? How long is going to take for the line of goodwill, the town hall, just to give a sense of how long does it take? I'm not a builder, so. Well, that's a tricky question, huh?
It's a big question. You actually made many questions into one question. So for the funding part, I think there are various sources. For example, the Matra Mandir Lake is being funded by private sources. The big bulk of the infrastructure and the clearing of ROWs and the paving of the roads, rights of ways, I mean. Those kind of things, the government of India will be giving us grants to complete this work. This has been approved by the governing board and by the finance committee as well. For housing, we are still trying to get some government of India grants our way and use it to build our first few high density model structures. Line of Goodwill could be one of them. So we don't have too much clarity right now on whether this is coming through or not. At the same time, Toby will take this answer just after me. Other schemes are being developed to explore collective funding models for housing in Auroville, precisely to move away from the idea that individuals come here with money, buy an asset, and then the asset is de facto theirs, even though on paper it's not. So today in Auroville, we're facing a lot of problems with the notion of de facto ownership also. And not only for that, it's also for the idea that in Auroville, we should not encourage through collective and administrative methods the sense of ownership which we want to leave behind and come here. So for that, the collective funding models, which Toby, would you like to take and answer these other things you are exploring?
Yeah, I can say something. We have just started to explore. Look, if you look at the amount of houses, what we need in the next 3-4 years, it is quite a lot. And if you take, for instance, just a simple number, but that is not sacred for let's say 20 lakhs for a house, and you need 5 or 6 or 7,000 houses, then you can calculate what you need. X infrastructure, X all that kind of things. Now, where we want to go to, and there is a task force working on it, that we make some kind of a revolving fund. And Sindhuja said already that we want to move away from that private ownership. So an important part will be collective, but nevertheless, there will also be possibilities that people can have something when they want to invest themselves in the house. Now, that model is explored. We are looking at the moment at specific funders. We are looking at organizations who can contribute, but it's all too early to say, well, it will be like this. That will take 1 or 2 more months before we come with a report on this.
So I had a question about the time frame also.
The first phase of the crown, which is being executed now, will take between 4 and 6 weeks. This is the land we own minus Darkali, the 6.7 meter carriageway, and 500 meters of the entire crown right of way executed in detail as a kind of showcase of the urban space that it can be. After that, we have surveys going on in Auroville right now, detailed surveys which will be done in one go. So we will not have the issue of errors with our base maps any longer. This is very important going forward to build our detailed development plans on. And by December 2022, the plan is also to clear the other right of ways as per the master plan, including hopefully the ring road. And as for the next, like Toby said, I think the next time we have this webinar, we can come with a tentative timeline and we can share it. We are still working on it. It's a work under progress.
Anyone else wants to add to this? Okay, I have another question.
Just one statement that, you know, the timelines are always planned. Like just when Auroville was begun, there was a timeline which the mother and Roger worked on. The timeline depends also on the goodwill and enthusiasm of everyone. And there are many things that are unknown and they will remain unknown. But every minute, how we act in every minute, it pulls one or another kind of destiny, one or acceleration or slowing down. So I think the best thing what we can do is what we are doing is to plan, do our best, believing in it and believing in the goodwill and to fulfill what was envisaged. So I don't feel we carry the burden to be accountable if we don't manage on time. It's more the thing we cannot afford to do is to not start. We are afraid to go from a standstill to go too much acceleration. It comes always with some danger and risk, you know, we are not unaware of about all that. But to not do is a bigger risk because it means like it becomes more hard to kickstart even. So we are just taking the first step to hopefully with all of you take more steps.
Right. So this webinar is called Auroville Tomorrow, and you have given us some glimpses of the work we're starting now. Can you give us some glimpses of the phase after? I mean, we are speaking of the line of goodwill, but I think there will be other lines to be developed. There will be some radials, there will be an outer ring. Can you make us dream a bit?
May I continue there? You know, see, there are inside of the city center, there are some areas that have not even been begun. One of them is, so if you look at the administrative belt, then there is a garden park, and then there is a habitat belt. Behind it is another garden park thing, and then is the vocational training area. They go in one direction and they intersect with the tall industrial zone buildings, which are part of the economic zone, where are offices and R&D, you know, a lot of office working spaces. So they are going to come in radially and open up a lot of workspaces. Those workspaces will intersect with the vocational training spaces. Now, if you look at it, very interesting in the geometry of Roger's work for Auroville's Galaxy, if you look at the children where the schools are located, there is a circular belt of schools. They go from the south on the left to the right, slowly into bigger and bigger schools, and they continue around the lake into the vocational training center. So this children who will be given more and more skills. So there is this interaction. So between for the youth, the space for the youth, we have not even started it. So it's very, very important to start those kind of projects to really give opportunities to the next generation. And that, along with the workspaces, is a very important thing. The rest of the dreaming, which you're saying, is going to very much be about the critical mass, which will enable a spirit of public transport, water and waste and energy management on an urban level, so that hopefully we all get to experience all of this in our lifetimes. So day after tomorrow will follow if we do tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Anupama. Anyone would like to make a final comment or question? Otherwise, I think we have almost reached our time and we could wrap it up. Right?
I do see there are a couple of other questions. Mm-hmm. Do we have time to take them, or we park them for next time? We can also take down the questions and answer them in writing later if you want to close the session.
No, if you feel like there is one you want to reply, please feel free.
I would have to actually go soon, yeah. So
could you give me a few slides there?
Yeah. Of your PowerPoint, right?
I think there is one question about
So we'll give first the opportunity
Yes.
to Jaya to add something, and then we
Yes.
could take the question, and then we could close. And Anupama, if you have to go, thank you very much for participating, and see you next time.
No, I wanted to take Yeah. opportunity to. Okay, I've come back for a few more minutes. It looks like it's going to be very short, right? And I saw the picture you projected, so.
Yes. No, I wanted to say a few words that actually we are all busy with what is happening here, but actually the world is very interested in what we are envisioning. So this is, I don't know who of you knows about Louisiana. It's a very iconic museum in Copenhagen, just close to Helsingør. And the first year of the COVID lockdown, actually, there was a, I think, half-year-long exhibition by Anupama, very much focused on the line of goodwill. And I can show you here a few pictures from it. This is a very, very big scale model, which was done there in the exhibition hall. I don't know how many people, but I think many people will have seen it in spite of the COVID lockdown. There was, in the background, you see a video which have been filmed through the day from the early morning light till evening of the Matrimandir with the bird song and everything. That was the background to this exhibition in the room. You can see here. This is, I think, the front plaza of the line of goodwill. And here you can see a little bit from the stepping up on the sides from one floor or ground floor up to 4. And this one and this one here is showing a bit, trying to give a feel of the greenery and the greenery of the city and the green, not the city, of the building. I just wanted to share this with you. This was a very, very amazing exhibition, went on for a long time in a very iconic European museum, and was specially invited on this topic, Anupama. So there is a big interest. We actually, this whole thing with the hillscape, which Rocher Angers was working with, now how many years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, is today in big architect firms in Copenhagen and other places being taken up, investigated. And we are in the forefront of this. How do you create a landscape with with this hillscape? In a flat landscape like Auroville, how do you build this movement? And I also wanted to say another thing about the line of goodwill, which is another aspect. And that is that when the land was being sold to Auroville in the early days when Mother was there, she gave the promise that the people would be given work. They sold the land, they had been farmers, they would be given work. We have all had here during all the years, the women who were totally uneducated, they were amas, the men were uneducated, they were gardeners. Today, all the children in these villages are educated and highly educated. We have engineers who work as salespersons in our shops because they can't get jobs. They are very educated. Somehow in the interaction, what has happened in India plays in, but the interaction between Auroville and these villages has actually given education and financial support such a push that we have a highly educated field around us. We need to give work. This line of goodwill and the gateway will provide work for educated people. This I feel is a very, very important part, because these villages are connected with us. And the whole movement of Auroville, line of goodwill, the other lines of force, it has so many aspects. It's the environmental aspects, it's the human aspect, it's the aspect with the social environment, with the material environment. I feel it's so important that we do this now. I went today, I happened to go out to look at the site, and I looked at some places where houses has been built in the residential area. An area occupied by 8 houses was supposed to hold 120 people. It has maybe 16 or 20. It's really painful to see. Let's really move with this. That is my call. Thank you very much.
You can sit. Thank you. Sindhuja, you wanted to take one more last question? Or are we good?
No, I just want to say, somebody asked the question about if we have any material that we can send to schools of architecture and volunteers. I think it's a very pertinent question because we are preparing a letter, a call actually to the students and even professionals of the world to come and plug in or to plug in, you know, from far. And whoever is interested in helping us with this task, or if you have contacts you would like to invite to Auroville, please get in touch with us at avenir@auroville.org.in, and we'll be happy to share this letter once it's ready. It can go out to just anyone who would like to plug in.
Okay, there's a few more questions, but our times has come up, so I suggest we'll try to answer them by writing or in a future webinar. I thought it might be interesting to bring the FAMC also, since an important part of the development will be the economical development, and if we want to bring people, we need to, like you're saying, giving them also economical opportunities. If you don't have any other closing argument, then I'll suggest we take a moment to thank Mother and Sri Aurobindo for accompanying us in this journey, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for attending and participating. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.